So what is the associated risk with AI? So you would read in the papers where even chatbots, right, are being exploited. You would hear because there are more applications that are used that are not sanctioned, right, by IT itself. So you would see the use of AI in just exploiting this particular vulnerability, so even AI itself being exploited. Now, thank you to F5 for, I think, putting Mythos front and center. When you read the paper quite extensively, what was scary there was that it was able to discover vulnerabilities which were undocumented or unknown and exploited it at machine speed, which prompted Anthropic to invite security vendors to take a look at the model first before it was released in the open. It was that dangerous. So if you have these models, floating around, right? The question is, what do you do next? It's not, like Sir Brian said, right? You assume the worst, right? So what do you do next? What is it that we can do together as a community to face this threat better, right? So what are, like Mom said a while ago, what are the best practices, right? And I think one of these, I think the ethos or the purpose of these meetings, like what Sir Chito said, is really to act together as a community, right? What do? We share insights and we work together. If the bad guys can work together, why can't the good guys work together, right? But what is the reality that we face as a security team, right? So, I mean, most vendors, you're probably sawang-sawa na kayo sa amin, di ba? So I think Sir Chito also to check our presentation, to remove the fluff and just, you know, really discuss what do you want or what do you advocate for us to do. And one of the few things is AI really going to replace us as humans in operations? Right? Yun ang tanong eh. Kapag, if I go to automation, will I be less relevant to organization? And our answer to that is, now is the more now is the time where we are most important, because we are really the guardrail. If you're looking for a guardrail for AI, it is us. Why do I say that? Because AI without context is not gonna give you the best result, right? Because AI can learn everything, fine, right? Even the alerts, but can AI know the context that you know? For example, this is a very, very common source of um, false positives, right? So, as a security professional within your organizations, AI will flag a particular process that was prompted. You, as the guy, know that at 4 o'clock, at a certain day, at a certain time, a particular department runs a process. Say it's a payroll process. So it's not suspicious, right? But there will be an alert. And AI will never know that, because as a man who works inside the company, you know the context behind that process, right? It can learn it after you have inputted your insight, because ikaw yung may institutional knowledge, eh, right? That is why I think now more than ever, we provide the vital context to what AI will do. For example, di ba, when you do, I hope everyone here uses some sort of generative AI like Gemini or ChatGPT, right? Di ba? What's the difference between a person who actually knows how to use it and a person who doesn't? The difference is the answers get better and better the better you prompt it. If you ask a stupid question, the answer is also stupid. But when you prompt it and make it better, right? For example, if I were to kind of look at if the client asks me, give me a recommendation. So I have several recommendations. I input it in the generative AI. It it will give me a stupid answer if I don't give it context, right? So that's the thing, right? We provide the vital context for our AI, right? So if we don't put that context, the problem statement that we have also is that there is a fundamental lack of visibility. I think they arranged this presentation in a way that we kind of complement each other. And F5 again, I think highlighted the fact that visibility is key. And I can only reiterate that fact that if you don't know your entire attack surface, how can you protect? If you don't know the boundaries of your property, right? Parang ano, I always give the analogy of the house, right? How are you going to secure your house if hindi mo alam kung saan mo babakuran? Di ba? You don't know how to fence it. You don't know where to put the camera. You don't know where to put the gate, right? Because you don't know where your property begins and ends. So it's the same with cybersecurity. We need to establish a baseline of where our attack surface is so that we can correspondingly know how to respond and detect threats, right? So it's a visibility issue as well as security issue. So visibility by itself is not security, but visibility plus security means resiliency, I would say, right? Um, so I would say that there is a correlation between velocity and sophistication of attacks with the number of vulnerabilities that are published. If you notice, there is a, I would say, exponential increase in vulnerabilities. It's never gone down. But what is the challenge for us as security operations, security professionals? We need to patch it, diba? That's our mandate to patch it. But if because there is a fundamental difference between the discoverer of the vulnerability, which is us, and the resolver, so we kind of pass it to someone else to resolve. So if the security team tells the IT team, hey, you need to patch 10,000 or 1,000 assets, and by the way, you need to do it on the weekend, it's fundamentally impossible, di ba? Because there is a disconnect between 99.999 and also being secure, right? So, ano yung una, which do I do first? So fundamentally, what we're trying to say is teams must be given a tool on how to prioritize. Ano yung uunahin ko? Di ba? So there's a saying, right? If you ask a person, ano priority mo? All. So if there's no priority, nothing is, di ba? So if you don't know how to prioritize, that's a problem. You need to select and be very, very strategic in your prioritization. That's why one of our advocacies as well is to tell clients, you need to prioritize. Correct. Correct, Sir Don. Correct. So, um, there are certain methods that they use AI to also kind of bypass endpoint defenses. It used to be that you see disabling specific EDR features, no, or even doing an MFA reset. So if you notice, no, we always say this. Please use. We don't have an MFA product, but we kind of encourage our clients to, if you're a Microsoft user, please enable it. Please enable MFA. It's free anyway. Just enable it, right? Because it's one of those things that really prevent any credential theft. If you look at the statistics, there's two primary methods by which malicious actors or threat actors come in. Number one is through credential theft, or I would say compromised credentials, and number two is, which is our area of expertise, is unpatched vulnerabilities, right? Exploitation. No. So there is an imbalance between I would say the detection, right? So reactive speed is no longer an advantage. Second is, again, I discussed this, right? Attackers are targeting trust. If they get an email from somebody they trust, they believe it, they log in, right? So for example, di ba, I think I was discussing this, right? There's email that you get. It seems perfect, so, and it comes from ang problema ngayon, di ba, ng telco, yung when you get a text now, yung meron ka mag-expire na points, and it's from a trusted source because the label that you get is BDO or BPI or some ever, right? So SMS phishing, right? So it's kind of very, very difficult, right? And if we as security professionals get tricked, how more the common person, right? Because it's, again, as I said, they're targeting trust. And it's from a trusted source. Kasi yung SMS na yun is the same SMS you get for confirming transactions na parang, oy, may pumasok ka na transaction, sinwipe mo yung credit card mo. So, yeah, exactly, right? Self-sighted naman. So it's very difficult, right? And then you see vulnerabilities weaponized at a faster rate, right? So that's the reality. So how do we do this? How do we become better? Um, so we shift left. We kind of make it more um, not reactive but proactive. So if you're rolling out applications, you have to test at an earlier stage. No? So you can do pen testing, you can do application testing at an earlier stage, and then know your enemy. No? Subscribe to some sort of threat intelligence and move at machine speed. You know, use AI to your advantage. If the bad guys are using AI, what prevents us from using AI ourselves, right? So this is how we operationalizing it when we mean shift left. So we call it blast radius. We call it, you know. So right of the boom, which is this is the when the incident happens. So we kind of we say we're reactive if we do like digital forensics and IR. But what can we do from the left of the boom? We kind of do threat exposure management, continuous threat exposure management. We do continuous red teaming and validation. We do threat intelligence based prioritization, right? Everything has to be real world, right? For example, it used to be that when we get reports for vulnerabilities, it's static, right? We get 1 to 10. We base it on a CVS score. Now the critical portion is yes, there's a CVS score, but what does the threat intel say? So there's additional context on which to prioritize. How do we kind of make threat intelligence reactive to proactive? So we actually have a service where we monitor specific profiles of specific VIPs in a company. Yung minimimic yung LinkedIn nila or minimimic yung social media page nila. And then we kind of tell them that hey, we help you take it down and we inform them, right? So we also kind of say monitor you from your entire attack surface. Um, and I just want to reiterate the middle, right? Again, you use AI to do initial triaging, but there is human judgment on the determination of the what to do with that particular alert, right? There's still human intervention. Kami, yun ang sinasabi namin. Yes, there's a managed service, but we still ask the client for a final determination. It could be, sir, we wanna remediate it, and you say, or do you want some automation already? So it's a balance, right? Um, you kind of stay in yon. We always say we stay informed. Diba? We always tell the client that this is what's happening. You can check it yourself. There's a certain degree of transparency on what's happening. Um, so we use agentic AI workflows, and we do AI triaging. That's how we kind of use AI to our advantage, right? Because the number of alerts and the velocity of the attacks, you would just be overwhelmed. Our solution could be to hire more people, but if you use AI to do the initial triage and you do the initial determination, then what you do is you just get people, you get better people to do L2, L3, which kind of creates better outcomes for clients, right? You're making sure that what you're discussing are not false positives. So our case study is that there was an October 21 event. So we did an initial threat hunt. We determined that yes, indeed, it was an active threat. So what we're saying is, based on the behavior of the attacker, we were able to kind of determine that it was a malicious threat. So we were able to proactively adjust the detection rules and add it to our I would say, out of the box detection rules in our service. So I thank you.
You made the first move, but I was 10 moves ahead. Watching you, closing down exposures, pinpointing where you'd go next. I had you the whole time. Because I don't work alone. I work in cybersecurity.